Welcome to Master of Science with host Professor James McCanney. The good professor's career spans 50 years as a university teacher, scientist, and engineer. Each week, he will explore the rapidly changing world of science as many long-held theories are crumbling under the weight of new data. He will cover the fields of geology, archaeology, meteorology, oceanography, space science, astronomy, cosmology, biological evolution, virology, energy, mathematics, and more. So please welcome the host of Master of Science, James McCanney.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome again. This is our 29th episode of this program, and moving along. Tonight, I was going to do the bets limit. Now, for many weeks, I've been postponing this, which I'm going to do again. It's a complicated topic it's a subject in the energy industry, a rather esoteric topic, but tonight there are many pressing issues that I want to cover. Not the least of which is the launch of a new telescope that's coming up here in a couple weeks. SpaceX is going to launch something called SphereX, and the pseudonym is for a telescope that will measure in the infrared in 102 different bandwidths. And supposedly this will be an improvement over the James Webb Telescope, which can see in both visible and infrared. The problem I have with this one is that there is, first of all, very little information on it. But from what I can surmise, if you are using 102 bands of the infrared, then you cannot do redshift data, which is one of the most important tools in all of astronomy. So if you're limiting your sensors in this telescope to narrow bands, 102 narrow bands in the infrared, then the issue is that you cannot do real spectroscopic analysis. In other words, you cannot identify elements. You cannot identify redshifts. Many things that are done in the just spectroscopy in general, it appears cannot be done with a satellite. And there's no information on it, but just the fact that they are frequency multiplexing or frequency limiting the bands tells me that this telescope has a lot of limitations. And of course, part of the problem is journal reporting. And I'll be talking about this in a minute. The main topic I want to talk about is, are we going to Mars? Now, this is a topic that I missed a couple weeks ago. I was talking about the direction that science would go with the new Trump administration, whether you like it or not, whatever, this is where things are going. And my determination is that it's they're very weak in the area of real science. Tier 2 science dominates, and unfortunately these are very complex areas that only people who've been working in these fields and around these fields, like myself, for literally decades, really knows the history of what's been going on. So if you just think, oh, everything in science, we just put some more money into it, maybe we'll go to Mars, completely missing the boat. That now let's just compare this with other regions of the economy, where they are taking a hard look at where money is being spent. And I know this because I have various businesses. I got emails, just many emails, prior to, after the election and prior to the January installation of the new president. They were spending money like drunk sailors. No bid contracts were going out. They were just sign up here and get your free no bid contract. Whatever it is, if you name whatever it is you do, we'll find you a a purchasing code, and we'll find you some kind of no-bid contract. All of the brakes have been put on that spending, and I didn't bite on those hooks because I knew that none of that money would ever be spent. And so anyway, the story is I was getting emails, and so were, probably all kinds of other companies that are registered with the government to do business. And that's a whole process in itself to get a company that's registered and have the coding of the things that can be done. It's a whole process, a very complicated process, and having a SAM registration, all of those things. And so if you have that, then all of these people would have been getting these emails also, thousands, tens of thousands, potentially millions of companies. And the idea is that you can do certain things for the government. For example, one of my things is radiation mitigation, whether in outer space or on Earth. And that is based on my own background, all of the things that I've done, and the fact that I have advanced physics degree in nuclear and solid state physics. So those things go together. And so one of the codes that is registered, that I've registered with the government, is for that, radiation mitigation. And so what they're trying to do is get me to pay these intermediate companies that would then go out and find contracts that would fit your registered codes with the government and get you hopefully no bid contracts. In other words, nobody else is bidding on this. If you bid it, you're going to get it. And it's, anywhere from $10,000 up to millions or hundreds of millions of dollars for some contracts. But they put the brakes on all of this, and but the issue is that with a lot of, let's say, the EPA, or let's take another department of the government like the Housing and Human Services, I think is one of them. This is my alarm going off. So they have a handle on these because they're things that pretty much any accountant could track and understand and find out what's really going on with these. But in science, there's a problem because most auditors, most accountants that they would put into these positions to audit the spending that's going on really don't have any basis for understanding science or what's being funded. So it's kind of getting a kind of a clean slate here. And there again, also Trump himself is not a scientist. He's a businessman, and these regions of science are very esoteric. For example, funding the Big Bang. What a crock. What a and I'll be talking about that along with the Spherex telescope and the James Webb telescope, which has proven that the Big Bang never happened. Let me just interject this for a second here. Now imagine a building. Let's take something like that everybody can identify with. Let's take the White House. The White House. What if I told you that the White House had no design, there was no designer, that it one day popped out of something smaller than a pinhead and just built itself all by itself? Organized it with all the furniture, all the fittings, all the stair casings, and it did this just at random, all by itself. And you'd say, if I was trying to pawn this off on you, you'd say you're crazy. The White House clearly had a designer. Most people would have no idea who it was, but they would firmly believe and tell you and guarantee you that there was a designer, and there was a design, and then the craftsman came in and built it according to the design, and etc. Now, let's take a step back. Let's take a look at planet Earth. All of a sudden, I'm going to tell you that it just popped out of nowhere, like something the size smaller than a pinhead, and it just magically appeared with all the water and all the lakes and all the land and all the fish and all the people and everything else. Just popped out of nowhere and just, there it is. Not a problem at all. And once again, you'd say, well, you're crazy. Things don't just happen like that. Well, the group of people who believe in the Big Bang are trying to tell you that the entire universe, we're not talking about the White House, we're not talking about a little piece of land on planet Earth, we're talking about the whole universe, buddy. Grandmas and grandpas, boys and girls, and moms and dads. The whole universe just popped out of this little thing and just at random organized itself. The protons on the other side of the universe are the same as here, all without design, without a thought, that it just out of a little pinhead, everything came out of there. You know, the story, I mean, if you just came out of nowhere and said that story, I mean, it'd be so preposterous that, you know, it's just like, come on, buddy, what are you smoking? You know, what kind of pills are you taking? Absolutely absurd. But they have managed in the scientific community to pawn this story off on you, the public, and the scientific community for over 100 years. Supposedly the most technologically advanced civilization to ever walk on planet Earth. Goodness, you know, you cannot, I mean, this story is so absurd and ridiculous that it doesn't even pass the don't even open the box smell test. It smells before you open the box. Yet, the majority of funding that is coming through the federal government out into the scientific world has to comply with this mandate. Now, if you were in another department of, let's say, Housing and Human Services, and you had a director there who said, okay, we're going to put all this money into this housing, but all the housing is just going to generate itself out of nothing. There's a little pinhead out there in the middle of Kansas, and all the housing in the whole country is going to pop out of that pinhead. It's going to all be built and without any problem at all. It'll be beautiful and everything will work harmoniously according to the laws of engineering, physics, and home construction. You know, hello? That wouldn't fly. Nobody would believe that. Yet, in the world of science, it is like everybody believes it, and all these people are getting all this money and all the telescope time and huge telescopes. Look at this, the Sphere-X or the James Webb Telescope or the Hubble Space Telescope, or hundreds of big telescopes around the world in the infrared and the ultraviolet and X-rays and satellite telescopes. All of this is going to people who believe that the universe just popped out of a pinhead and everything is here, hunky-dory. Not a problem, folks. That's what I'm talking about. The situation in science, and I'm talking across the board, in medical science, in the pharmaceutical industry, in space science, which is more in the line of what I do, astronomy, astrophysics, space science, hardcore science like fusion. How many decades have they been looking for fusion? And all of the equipment that's been built, just, you know, it's absurd the amount of money that's being poured into science that is garbage science. And one of the reason I'm talking about this is because the administrators that are going in to stop government graft and corruption really don't know what to do with this because they're not scientists, because the scientists have PhDs. Good grief. You have to believe them, don't you? They have PhDs. And so that's a real big problem today, is government spending on science. And I want to repeat this. Imagine the story that the universe, we're not talking just planet Earth or the solar system or the White House, popped out of something smaller than a pinhead, and and everything organized into the way we see it today. Yet, even though physicists literally study the universe to understand the laws of physics, they're saying that all of this happened at random. Random systems don't work that way. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the tier level of science, something that I've defined in my work because of my experience. And I've experienced all of these levels of science and knowing people, etc. So anyway, first of all, journalism. Let's just talk about that. When you look at articles today in online, mainly everything comes out online, space.com, or say anything related to weather, or science in general, astronomy, NASA, whatever, you find that the journalists they're young, they're very young, they don't have any experience, they have some kind of degree in maybe science studies and journalism, and so they really don't know anything. They're not scientists, they don't have any experience. And this is what is being pawned off as journalism in the scientific world. So when I read these, I'm like, what is a degree in physics and philosophy of science? I mean, what is that? They took Physics 101 and 102 and flunked out of Physics 103, so they went into philosophy of science. And I mean, I don't understand what these degrees are even that these people have. Most of them have a journalism degree of some kind. But that means they know just enough to repeat what they are told. And that's exactly why they're useful. Let me talk about the tier levels of science that exist today. And this is instrumental in understanding where money goes from the federal government. And this is the central issue here. Tier 1 science is what I call military science. And I've been there, I know what it's all about. I don't know all the projects they're working on. I have designed projects that have in Tier 1 science. I have many projects that were designed and being implemented in Tier 1 science. And so this is science that you never see. The scientists, the way they come about is they go through graduate school, they get a PhD, they start doing their work, they might get a job at a university or NASA or something, and all of a sudden they are plucked out. They're like head and shoulder above the rest. And anybody who gets a PhD, not all PhDs are equal, believe me. And not all PhD candidates and graduates are equal. And so and there's qualifications. It's not just how good you are at physics. There's a lot of other things that you have to qualify to be plucked out into Tier 1 science. I entered there by myself, and I was recognized by a lot of people in those Tier 1 communities. I was invited to Los Alamos to lecture on my scientific work on this what you see above here, the electrical nature of the solar system and of the universe, fusion capacitors, etc. And so, but Tier 1 is science that you just don't see. And the people never publish in peer-reviewed journals. You don't see their names, you don't see their faces, and they have signed contracts, basically gag orders, and they are not they're not at liberty to talk about anything that they're doing or who they are or where they work, etc. And they're complete separate facilities. Okay, so then let's talk about Tier 2 science. Tier 2 science would be university professors who are doing research. This is where the bulk of federal money goes that is visible. There's a lot more money that goes into Tier 1, but that's invisible money. You don't see it. You don't see it in the budget. And the reason that was done a long time ago is because if they knew how much foreign adversaries knew how much money we were spending in certain areas of Tier 1 science, of skunkwork science, or secret science projects, they would know what we were up to. They could determine what kind of capabilities we might have. But Tier 2 science is then published in peer-reviewed journals. The people go to American Geophysical Union meetings, which I used to do a lot. I don't anymore because I realized that it was a waste of my time, because everybody there is kind of living in la-la land in the science world. And they go on for decades publishing in the same old. Tier 3 would include some university professors who just teach. They don't do research, they don't publish. They're teaching from a textbook. I call them textbook repeaters or textbook geniuses. And they might run a planetarium, they might run some other institution, and they're typically associated with some organization or institution, but they don't do research, they don't really teach, and they're more like outreach people, and they're paid. It's always difficult to find exactly where their money comes from in a lot of these cases. And it's usually under the table in some form or fashion. But still, degreed scientists, a lot of them with PhDs. Okay, Tier 4 would be at the level of, say, high school teachers, or can I say community college teachers, etc., who are just teaching from a textbook, or journalists. Journalists are another level, Tier 4 science, where they really don't know much other than what's they're reading out of a textbook, or if they're reporters, journalists, reporting to the public, and they just simply report what they're told. It's okay, this is what it is, this is what they've been told. They have a nice smiley face, and usually in the journalism world, I have yet to see recently any elderly people. They're all young, right out of college, green behind the ears. They don't know anything. They don't know how to ask any questions. And they just present the material as it's given to them. And they're just happy little smiling faces. That's the big problem right there. One of the issues. Now, if you go up to the national level in any other field, housing, urban development, EPA, whatever, the journalists know about that field. They have some experience. They know how to formulate a question, a pointed question. And they know about the budget and where money is spent. They know about studies that have been done, etc. But in the science world, that's simply not true. In the world of science, especially when you get into space science, astronomy, astrophysics, geology, evolutionary biology, whatever, they're just passing along this information. I saw a very cute little skit. It was on a YouTube channel, and this teacher, it's obviously like a high school setting. Kids are sitting in the classroom, and the teacher's up there and starts out, and today we're going to learn about evolution, and trying to probe the kids to bring up, because he knew some of the kids in the peanut gallery were Christians. And he was trying to get them to say something where he could then slam them down and say, well, this is real science, and evolution is based on real science, and that's what we teach here. And so at first the kids were a little hesitant to talk, but the final conclusion was the kids realized that it takes more faith to believe evolution than it does to believe in a designer. And that was their point. They talked about the missing link, and that there's no missing link, and there should be millions of them all over the place. It should be patently obvious that if man evolved from the monkey, there should be dozens and dozens of not hundreds or thousands of intermediary stages between monkey and man. So where are they? But it's a leap of faith. But the teacher was going to hard-handedly slap down and say, no, evolution is science, it's hard science, it's proven, and therefore you have to believe it, in spite of your faith, in spite of your belief in the Bible or whatever. So the reality is that in space science, astronomy, astrophysics, there's two branches of evolution that were solidified in the Carl Sagan Cosmos series in 1979 to 81 when Carl was releasing that. One was evolution on the grand scale of the cosmos, physical evolution. Secondly is the evolution of biological systems that supposedly just popped out of nowhere. And nobody can really tell you how this happened, but that's the assumption. And so, and of course, the entire point of this is to tell you that the physical universe and the biological universe all popped out of nothing, and there's no design, there's no designer, it's just simply random. That's the way things go. And it's really a preposterous story. The end result is that our human mind is simply not capable of understanding. And so it's up to science because they're supposed to be the smart ones, right? They're supposed to have PhDs. They know everything, right? And so since they can't explain any of this, they just say it popped out of a little pinhead, 13.5 billion years ago, and they're good to go. Who can disprove that? Nobody. Nor can you prove it. Nobody was there to see the Big Bang. Every ounce of evidence is tertiary. It's like an interpretation of things we see, and then it turns out that everything in the Big Bang has alternative interpretations. The redshift is due to a completely different effect, something I have published papers on. It's called the induced electric dipole redshift. It's an internal property of fusion-based stars due to the non-uniform electric field around fusion-based stars and the effect on light. And then the microwave background radiation, that's not due to remnant of 3-degree microwave background radiation from the Big Bang. It's a measurement of a microwave. It's a background radiation in the infrared, deep infrared, of a cloud of dust and gas that surrounds our solar system. If you got outside of that, you would no longer see this 3-degree background radiation. You would not see it anymore. And since nobody's ever put a satellite out that far, then it's impossible to prove that. Another thing in standard science is called the Oort cloud. Supposedly all these ice ball comets are orbiting our sun way, way out there. Nobody's ever seen it. You could never, ever build a spacecraft that could go out and detect it because these little teeny ice balls are out there, and supposedly millions of them, but they're so far away that we could never get a spaceship there. And so anyway, they have been teaching this garbage for 50 years, and they still continue to. If you see an article, I see articles all the time about comets in the news, and there's still this little wander icy, from the far reaches of the Oort cloud. Unbelievable. The head of NASA in 2018 got up on a podium in NASA Science, and he said comets are not dirty snowballs. Yet the news media keeps moving this information. The whole point of this is that science is horrifically bad and outdated. Archaeology is in the same state. Geology is in a horrifically bad state. The archaeology or the geology of planetary formations and planetary phenomena is horrifically out of date. Just unbelievable. So my point is that the government that should be reining in on the expenses associated with keeping these people in their lofty little ivory tower positions, it's not being abated as it is in other areas. And this is a big problem, because if you have a scientifically stupid public, you have a very controllable public, and that's the bottom line. So let's move on to the idea of, will man go to Mars? And Trump made a specific mention of this in his inaugural address. And of course, Elon Musk was cheering it on. And remember that going to Mars or going to the moon is not just a technical event. Can we build a spacecraft that can go there? Like building a car that can go from 0 to 60 in 2.2 seconds. It's not just a technical achievement, because you have all kinds of other issues that are going to make it impossible to go, including space radiation. Nobody, believe me, understands the issues of space radiation. I understand them because it's something I'm familiar with. But if you look even at Tier 1 level science, they are still grappling with the concept of space radiation. And the very simple observation is that man has not gone into or beyond low Earth orbit since the I won't go there. Since supposedly they went through the Van Allen belts and radiation belts before. And there again, they simply don't understand this or the long-term effects of space radiation, because nobody has ever been there. So before you go to Mars, you better prove all of your equipment in low Earth orbit, and then go out into the radiation belts, into the radiation hazards, and understand them and understand what it's going to take to put human beings there. I made a comment a couple weeks ago, kind of off the cuff and not halfway serious, that the Greys, everybody shows the Greys, these little, aliens with the big eyes. And I said, it makes more sense to think of them as robots, because it takes a lot less energy, a lot less doing to send a robot to another planet or planetary system. They potentially would be made in the likeness of their creators, whatever beings live on some other planetary system. But to send actual beings, you need food, you need the environment. Robots can live in the vacuum environment of space and not be affected. You don't need food, you don't need atmosphere, you don't need to regenerate the atmosphere for the type of air they breathe, etc. And so much easier to to build and send robots. Excuse me. And so at any rate, the idea of going to Mars, very simply from my point of view, is that you have to send a lot of robotic equipment there first and really understand the situation. Then you can send people. Going to Mars, going to the moon is right there. It's in orbit around Earth. Mars is in orbit around the sun. Going there is a whole different issue. And of course, people understand this. The people that are talking about going to Mars really understand this. But there again, there's a huge cost involved, and there's a lot of basic science that cannot be done if you're putting all your eggs into the manned space program, something that's been going on for a long time. So going to Mars, it's not the technological issues that are at stake here. There are other issues, including psychological issues of putting somebody in a space capsule for that length of time. Nobody has ever really done that before out of low Earth orbit. So it's like when we grew up as Boy Scouts and we learned how to be prepared. That's the Boy Scout motto, be prepared. That means, being prepared means that you didn't just take your camping equipment, take it out of the box and unpack it and then go on a camping trip, and like a survival camping trip. No, you had to go out and learn how to use wet matches. How do you dry matches off if it's wet? How do you keep dry if it's raining very hard? Where do you pitch your tent? All kinds of issues that are required to be a good camper. And so that it makes it comfortable and easy, and you don't die as a result of not knowing what you're doing. So the same thing holds true for going to Mars. And so until people actually start sending robotic missions to Mars and landing there and spending time there, understanding what's going on, including the electrical nature of the atmosphere of Mars. Just want to make a quick mention of earthquakes, volcanoes that are active right now. The Kilauea in Hawaii has been active for a number of weeks now. And people are leaving the little tourist island of Santorini in the Mediterranean because of just a cluster of earthquakes in the last couple days. And I can tell you, earthquakes are very unnerving. I've been in some myself. There are some places where I've lived where they have many per day. But those are actually good because that's relieving the tension in the plate boundaries. But I was in one in Ecuador, maybe 6-8 years ago. It was a 7.0. And I was in the shower. It was the middle of the night. It was dark out, so after sundown, and it was like slamming me against the walls in this little shower. And I eventually found my way out to the street where everybody was already in the street screaming, and it's just like, talk about psychologically devastating event, because you have to stand in the middle of the street because you don't know if the walls are going to crack. The walls next to you are cracking, and the entire building might fall down, so you have to, it's really a horrendous experience when the ground under your feet starts shaking and you know you have no control over it. But I was just looking at the list of earthquakes just in the last couple of days. Many of them near islands or near land masses. Chile, the southern, southeast Pacific islands, and all over the world. So anyway, something to keep an eye on. But the point is that we live in a very active world. And the reason we live in a very active world is because recently, in the last 10,000 years, we've had a major disruption of planet Earth's geology from a large passing comet. And the ancients talk about this, and it's one of the things that's totally denied in all of science. So if Earth was 4.5 billion years old, like they talk about in standard science, then we just would not have any geological activity like this at all. Zero. And it may be a rare event. But the fact that this is going on constantly all over the place, all over the planet, is a testament to the fact that Earth has been rattled recently geologically. And like I say, within the last 10,000 years, and I'm not talking about an asteroid hitting Earth or something like that, of which we don't have any trace. There are people out there talking about asteroids hitting Earth in the last 10,000 years, enough to cause major mass extinctions worldwide. There's no trace of that in the geology of Earth. But when something comes by, a large celestial object, and it would be in the form of a comet, it doesn't hit Earth, it just simply comes by, and the gravitational wave is enough to disrupt the surface across the mantle of Earth and give us this continual barrage of earthquakes and volcanic activity. There's currently a seamount rising up out of the Pacific just off the coast, the northwest coast of the United States. So all of this activity is proof that Earth has been rattled in geologically recent history. Okay, so now I want to talk about water filters, and this is an interesting thing that when I first started doing radio 25 years ago with my own radio show, it was the Thursday evening version of this show, which this show started, the TV show started last July 2nd, 2024. But my radio show, the James McCanney Science Hour at the Crossroad, goes back 25 years. And the original arrangement was to have the airtime paid for with the sale of water filters, and then I eventually sold various different types of water filters until I had my own product line. And so back in the old days of science, let's just put it this way, Scientists did not get money from the government. And when I would go to American Geophysical Union meetings or other congresses of science or whatever, you would have a name tag and would have my name, Professor James McCanney, and affiliation. It would say independent scientist. And the modern genre of scientists can't understand how a person could possibly exist without government funding. And I've never taken government funding to do research or signed up for it or anything like that. When I was in graduate school, of course, I worked under a NIH grant for my doctor, my research that I was doing there. But other than that, in my personal life, I've never taken money from the government, and I don't want to, because it corrupts you. It does. From the second you take that first money, and I've seen this over and over again, where falsification of records, falsification of scientific results, and by people that I thought were honest scientists, so they could get that continuing grant money. So you have a lot of bad science out there, resulting simply from the process of getting government money. So what I've done is I found other ways to make money, and this is the old-fashioned way of doing it. For example, when Einstein wrote his most famous papers, he was not working for a university or whatever. He was working as a patent clerk. And he had his physics degree, etc., but he was making his money doing something else. And so his papers, which are classics, came about from him doing it out of interest. And that's where real science and mathematics happens. And so you have these political correct establishments, ivory tower establishments in the universities, etc., based on huge funding, and it's corrupted to the core the scientific community. So at any rate, my water filter company, now it's called JMCC Water Filters, has been in business for 25 years. And I've developed my own products, so I'm going to go through some of those right now and talk about this, because right now we're having a sale on. And if you purchase this, you do two things. You help yourself, because these are the best water filter products on the planet, or in this side of the galaxy actually, that I'm aware of. And you help yourself, and then you also help support a lot of the things that I do, the science work that I do in the background. When I go on expeditions, or if I go on assignment, when I give myself an assignment, I'm going to go to some ruins, or I'm going to go to an archaeological site, or I'm going to go to other locations. I'm going to do some scientific work, some experiments in the laboratory or whatever. I fund that myself. I don't go to the government to get money. So what you help out with here when you purchase the water filters is you help out with those processes. At any rate, so I'm going to go through the water filter product line, and these are on sale now, so you can get these great products at a very reduced price. And first of all, we have the MR5 Whole House Water Filter. This is the flagship product, stainless steel construction. If you go, I dare you to do this. Go to Amazon, search for Whole House Water Filters. What you're going to find is cheap plastic stuff, containers that, you know, they that's what you're going to get, cheap plastic stuff. And or some people are trying to pawn off water softeners, and and calling them water filters. Then a water softener is not a water filter. It's a container, a single container that contains a resin, and that resin then absorbs, takes some stuff out of the water, usually one or two things. It's not a broad spectrum water filter, and it's not a filter, in fact, at all. So they're misnaming what they're calling a water filter. But the water filter I have, the MR5 Whole House Water Filter, is stainless steel construction. It's going to be there long after your house is gone. That stainless steel will be there. Very high level of engineering. And inside are 5 20-inch filter elements You put this at the port of entry of water in your house or in a business, small apartment complex, and it will give you the equivalent of a clear mountain stream in your house. Very clean water. And the reason you have the whole house water filter is because the hot and cold water are filtered. One of the biggest problems where you get toxins in your body is in the daily shower. You have your skin is the biggest absorbing organ on your body, and when you're showering, that vapor, the water, hot water, and all the chemicals in it are going right into your body, direct drive into your bloodstream and and you're going to have this, you're going to eventually build up these toxins. Those toxins get into your body and build up over time and eventually start getting sick. You get more toxins in your body from the daily shower than you do drinking a glass of toxic water. That's how bad it is. Plus, you're breathing in the vapor, so the chlorines and the chloramines and the glyphosate and everything else in your water, you're breathing that in, once again, goes directly into your bloodstream and builds up in your body, and it doesn't go away. It builds up and builds up until you're sick. So that's why the MR5 whole house water filter is something that it's a relatively low cost investment. And they're on sale right now. The normal price is $17.99. Right now, $300 off, $14.99, and you can get an additional 5% off using the coupon code MASTER. And you can see on the screen here the webpage, jmccwaterfilters.com. Use the coupon code MASTER for another 5% off. Next, we have the replacement filter elements for the MR5. These never ever go on sale, but I put up a sale because there are so many people out there that already have the MR5, or if you're buying it for the first time, you can get these. Some people buy 2-3 sets at the time they purchase the MR5, because every 55,000 gallons you should change them out. Renew these. It's something you can do yourself. And they're on sale. So if you buy one set, they're a reduced price, $50 off. 2 sets, you get a much bigger discount, or 3 sets is about $100 off per set. Plus, we send you a free set of UV bulbs and the quartz tube for the UV sterilizer. And by the way, that MR5 package is what we call the best deal. The best deal includes the MR5 and the UV sterilizer. It's a final filter that kills any bacteria or viruses that might be in your house, in your water coming into the house. Finally, I have the best replacement water filter elements for gravity water filters. And this would be, the 2 stainless steel tanks. One sits up on top of the other one. And those are the best in the industry. It's a 2-stage filter. The majority of other filters out there are going to cost you a lot more, and they're only a 1-stage filter. They're not really a filter, they're an absorber. And my filters take out everything all in one, including arsenic and fluoride. So you have all in one. You don't have to prime them. There's a lot of filters out there. You have to pump the water backwards through to activate the filter, which causes pollution. You're polluting that filter before you even use it. So my filters, you do not have to prime them, and they're all in one. And by the way, all of this has free shipping. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about gravity water filters because here's the problem. The standard design for a gravity water filter is it stands up into the upper container. You have 2 containers. The filters are in the top container where you put the water. Gravity pulls the water down through the filters, and then it drips into the bottom container. That's the principle of a standard gravity water filter. Typically the containers are stainless steel, and there's a dozen makes or models. I won't go into the naming them, but my filters fit all of them, though it's a very standard size. And here's the problem with the other filters that you might find on the market. They stand upright into the upper container. Now, what's the problem with that? Well, as the water drops down in the upper container, as it's filtered, the top of the filter is exposed, and pretty soon, pretty much the whole top of that filter is not in the water. So most of your water is filtered through the bottom 2 inches of the filter. Bad design from the beginning. And so my filters hang down into the bottom container. They're designed to be in the water, as a filter should be, and the water enters the filter and goes through the entire filter 100% of the time. And so a properly designed gravity water filter should hang down into the lower container. And let me describe the filter, which is a 2-stage filter. It's called the HI gravity water filter element. It's a 2-stage filter. The first stage is a physical filter, and it's a new technology. It's called ultrafiber. It's the latest technology if you're filtering for gasoline or chemicals or other solvents, etc. It's the latest technology. And so, and also for water. And so what happens is you have ultrafibers. They're woven or they're bundled into a compact array, and that is what is the physical filter. And because of this new design, you can get down to 0.01 microns, almost the size of a virus, trapped in this filter element, the first stage filter element. And then anything that's dissolved in the water, like chemicals or other types of toxins that are in solution in the water, are taken out in stage 2, which is a medium which removes the toxins from the water. And the design is interesting because it allows the minerals to pass through. So you have the proper mineral balance in your water. You don't have to remineralize it. I just want to mention also some technologies like reverse osmosis. Reverse osmosis, I actually could sell them. I don't, because what happens is the water that you have to backflush them, the elements in a reverse osmosis unit, and what happens is sometimes as much as a gallon of water is wasted for every gallon of water that you get. It's really horrifically bad. A lot of cities like Los Angeles have actually banned them because of the amount of toxins coming back in the water. It's very difficult to deal with the cleaning up that water, and so they actually don't want reverse osmosis in your house. It's a bad technology. Like I say, I could sell it, but I don't. My filters are actual filters. When you the lifetime of the filter, which for gravity is about 1,000 gallons, for the MR5 it's 55,000 gallons. Then you replace the filter, you put the other one in the trash, and just goes into the recycling, and it doesn't ever leach back out into the environment. Okay, so a properly designed gravity water filter hangs down into the lower container. And plus, the flow rate on my filters is very high. It's no more drip, 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 waiting forever. It's a high flow rate filter. It filters 2 gallons in the span of an hour. So your gravity water filter will filter completely in about 1 hour, not overnight. Okay, so just to remind you, there's free shipping. And with the gravity filters, if you buy an 8-pack, we send you 10. If you buy a 12-pack, we send you 14. Once again, free shipping. The sale that's on right now ends on February 16th. That's the Sunday after Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day is the 14th on a Friday, and the sale ends the Sunday afterwards. So this is timely for help. This would be a great Valentine's Day present, giving somebody the present of clean water. Once again, use the coupon code MASTER, MASTER, for an additional 5% off any purchases over $300. The webpage, once again, jmccwaterfilters.com, jmccwaterfilters, plural.com. And go to the top of the web page where it says products. There's the drop-down menu. You can select either the MR5 whole house water filter or sink and gravity water filters. Now we also have a sink filter that's a high flow rate, beautiful stainless steel. All of these products are stainless steel, the MR5 and the sink filter. Very top quality products that you will not find anyplace else. That's the thing. I dare you, go on Amazon, go wherever you want to find filters. You will not find a product of this high quality, and certainly not at this kind of price either. So we have very good prices, top quality, and we sell all the replacement parts, also the replacement water filter elements. And so the once again, go to the webpage jmccwaterfilters.com. Go to the top, select products. Drop-down menu will give you MR5 whole house water filter or the sink and gravity water filters. That's where you go to determine if you want the sink filter or the gravity replacement filter elements. And this is clean water is essential. I mean, that's life. If you are drinking toxic water, in fact, there are doctors who, when patients come into them, the first thing they tell them is that they should be drinking a lot of water. Well, let me tell you, bottled water many times is just tap water put in a bottle. It's really horrifically bad. And plus, you have the issue of the chemicals leaching out of the plastic, especially those little thin plastic bottles that you get a liter or half a liter of water. Terrible. And the chemicals can leach out of that into the water. So get yourself a really nice stainless steel or aluminum water bottle, fill it at home, and just think of all the money you save. If you have a family of 4, the whole house water filter will pay for itself in less than a year by not buying bottled water. I see people coming out of the store with these big cases of bottled water. Absolutely absurd. It's terrible. Get a whole house water filter. Give everybody a really nice water bottle. Fill them at home and then take them with you, or take them on a trip, etc. And by the way, we do have another product that's make your own. Comes with a spigot, stainless steel spigot, and you can make your own water filter. With we have directions on how to do it. You buy your own containers and drill holes in them. And for a very inexpensive option, if you have a cabin up north or something for camping or traveling, you can make your own water filter with any size, shape containers as long as they're a stackable container. So once again, the sale ends February 16th, Sunday, after the Valentine's Day. The webpage jmccwaterfilters.com. Coupon code MASTER for an additional 5% off. And tell your friends, tell your family, and helps you out, helps me out. And this is the way, like I say, science used to be done a long time ago. I get a kick out of some people that criticize me for making money by selling products. This is the way science used to be done. This is the best way. And I would love to see government-funded science just completely cut, as they're doing with many other funding from the federal government. The federal government, listened to Ike Eisenhower's message as he talked about the dangers of government-funded science and the military-industrial complex. He warned us about this decades ago, and it has done nothing but pollute and corrupt the field of science.
This has been Master of Science with host James McCanney. Join us each week as James will delve into historical figures such as Nikola Tesla, Albert Einstein, and the great mathematicians as we explore the history of man, Earth, and our universe as you've never seen it before. Tuesdays, 7 p.m. Eastern, right here on the Bold Brave TV network, powered by B2 Studios.